Today's gospel reading contains a piece of one of the most famous and well-known passages from all of our Christian scriptures. Smack dab in the middle of the Sermon on the Mount, which only appears in Matthew's gospel, we have the Beatitudes. Luke also gives us some Beatitudes, but Luke tells us about the Sermon on the Plain, not the Sermon on the Mount. Now, the Sermon on the Plain might have been the same event, or it might have been a different event altogether with a very similar sermon. When I was a chaplain and I floated around the Diocese of Utah preaching at various parishes about the importance of spiritual care in healthcare settings, I quite frequently had the chance to deliver a sermon that I called Father Tim's Greatest Hits. Adapting it slightly for the gospel of the day, I usually said about the same thing in different settings. And I could get away with it because I had an entirely different congregation each time I preached it. Now, this isn't uncommon. Bishops usually preach something of a canned homily when they visit different parishes. Michael Curry, the former presiding bishop of the Episcopal Church, had a very engaging preaching presence. And in fact, he's probably the best preacher in the Episcopal Church. But he also had the advantage of being in a different part of the church every time he preached. And this gave him license to use his catchphrases. And while he has many, he famously said, "If it's not about love, it's not about God." And we are the Episcopal branch of the Jesus movement. And even public speakers like the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. gave canned speeches. We all remember his most famous speech as we begin today, Black History Month, his "I Have a Dream" speech. Well, guess what? While we all remember that he delivered that speech in front of the Lincoln Memorial, and I've even stood on the platform, the step where he preached it from, or where he delivered it from, that wasn't the first time that he shared that speech. Sometimes speakers use great sounding sound bites when they speak to different audiences. But if I said the same two lines to you each time I got up here, you'd get bored and you'd probably tune out. It's possible that Jesus said the same thing and delivered the same sermon, kind of a canned speech. And if he did, then that tells us that this message is super important to those of us who wish to follow him. The Beatitudes. Luke gives us 4 Beatitudes and 4 woes. Matthew gives us twice as many Beatitudes and no woes. And our words for beauty and beatitude come from the same ancient Latin root. It means good. Something that is beautiful is attractive. And something that is blessed is favored. Both of those are qualities that humans find to be pleasing. So it isn't a coincidence that our word for a series of blessed qualities is similar to our word for something that is attractive. They are good. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are the meek. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. Blessed are the merciful. Blessed are the pure in heart. Blessed are the peacemakers. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake. All these people are blessed in the eyes of God. But aren't all people blessed in the eyes of God? After all people are made in God's image, and all people are inherently good. Are we therefore all blessed? Well, yes. I heard a yes over here. I like that. Yes. Yes, we are. So in that case, what is Jesus trying to tell us? The word appearing in the manuscripts is makarios. And it kind of means happy, but it isn't exactly happy like we think happy when we think of happiness in English. Other than the word blessed, we really don't have a good English word to convey what it means. And even blessed doesn't exactly get the point across. Desmond Tutu, the former archbishop in the Anglican Church of Southern Africa, used to say before he died that joy was different from happiness. And he's right. In a theological sense, we don't have to be happy all the time to maintain a sense of joy. Think about the death of a loved one who has lived a full life. And while we are sad that our loved one is no longer here with us, and we maybe even be uncontrollably sad when we think about how much we miss that person, we are still joyful about that person having been a piece of our lives. And we are joyful on their behalf that they are now in heaven with God. Our joy is not contingent upon our immediate emotion of happiness. I can be angry, for instance, with my wife because she said something hurtful to me, most likely because of something I either didn't do that I was supposed to do, or because of something that I did do that I wasn't supposed to do. But that doesn't mean that I'm in an overall state of unhappiness with her. It just means that I'm experiencing a different emotion at that moment, other than happiness. And overall, I'm quite happy. And we have a healthy, loving marriage. So think of Makarios as something along those lines. Not immediate happiness, but overall wellness or, well, blessedness. Well, I suppose that's nice. We're all blessed. That's great. So again, we ask, what is Jesus trying to say? Or as my school children would ask, what? So what? Good question. Society places a whole lot of expectations upon us. And we're sometimes sold a bill of goods. How many times have you told yourself something like, I'll be happy when I finally get the car that I've always wanted? Or, I'll be happy when I can earn a better salary. Or, I'll be happy when I finally get to marry the prettiest person in the room, knowing full well, by the way, that Brandy's already married to me. It happens, right? It happens. We've all been there. We've all said things like, I'll be happy when I'm rich, or I'll be happy when I get a better job, or I'll be happy when my team finally wins the Super Bowl. And I don't recommend, by the way, those of us who live in Arizona hold our breath for that one. It's probably a ways off. Go Patriots. But we've all said something similar. And the Beatitudes remind us that we've kind of been missing the point all along. All the people that Jesus lists off are people who society usually writes off. The people we are told are undeserving of happiness. The meek, the poor, the hungry, the merciful, the peacemakers, the people who are persecuted for doing the right thing when everyone else tells them they should do otherwise. All those people are blessed. Jesus isn't telling those people that they are blessed. He's reminding everyone else that even the people they tend to cast aside are blessed too. Who are the people that we cast aside? And what conditions do we place on them in order to see them as favored in the eyes of God? Do we see someone walking down the street talking to no one, or maybe even yelling at no one, and cast that person aside because we see them as lesser than us? Do we see someone using an EBT card for groceries and feel compelled to complain that they have a box of Oreos in their shopping cart when we think they should only be buying carrots? Do we see a woman being pushed down by some kind of authority figure and laugh because she got maced, and then celebrate that someone who rushed in to protect her was shot and killed? I hope not. But with what we've seen in the past few weeks, my heart hurts. And supporting the killing of anyone is never in line with Christian values. It just isn't. It just isn't. Renee Good, Alex Pretty, Silverio Gonzalez, Isais Barbosa, all are dead. All at the hands of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, otherwise known as ICE. All killed within the last 2 months. All blessed in the eyes of God. All killed senselessly by those who felt that they should not be considered blessed. I've seen the footage. I've seen the footage. I publicly denounce such violence. And I encourage you to do the same. Why? Because these people are blessed. Here's the question. Are the people who shot them also blessed? Yes. Yes, they are. And that's exactly why I want them to rethink their behavior. Our behavior doesn't define whether we are blessed. That's the whole point. I've spent time in San Quentin prison. Don't worry, I didn't serve time in San Quentin. I was a chaplain. I was a chaplain there. And I ministered to some of what society might consider to be the worst of the worst among us. I'm talking about the San Quentin. You know, that place with that ugly green gas chamber? The gas chamber that replaced the gallows before it? The place where 422 people have been executed by the state of California in the last 140 years? That San Quentin. The place where they send rapists and murderers and drug dealers. The place where Charles Manson and Scott Peterson and Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, and even Danny Trejo all served hard time. That place. And all of them, each and every one of them, was, in the eyes of God, blessed. Each was a human being who was convicted of a horrific act. Maybe even a horrific act that ended someone's life, multiple lives even. But their bad behavior doesn't take away their blessedness. It damaged their souls, but it did not make them less blessed. And our collective bad behavior as a nation doesn't take away our collective blessedness, but it does damage our souls. And if we continue to support inhumane acts, then we become desensitized. We continue to go down a path of calling things that are evil good. They're not. They're not. Not in a Christian context. Not even if it helps our economy. Not even if it pads our 401k. Jesus famously said, "What shall it profit a man if he gains the world but loses his soul?" Is it worth it? Is the suffering and the agony of our fellow human beings worth it? Not to me. Not to me. Not to me. And hopefully, not to us. Not to the people I took vows to lead as a servant and as a teacher and as a spiritual guide. The answer is easy. No. Our fellow humans are suffering. And if we are in a position to help them, then we have an obligation to help them. We have to stop the bleeding. We cannot continue down this course. And I cannot, in good conscience, ignore the suffering of so many for the sake of not making some people a little angry. Righteous anger is good. and it must always be used for good. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And blessed are you when people revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. We must not permit our collective souls to be relinquished. And yes, even if people say mean things to us, and trust me, when we speak for what is right, people will say mean things to us. But even then, we must always remember that we choose. We choose to follow Jesus. We choose to be his hands and his feet here in this place, here on earth. And we choose enthusiastically to uphold the dignity of every human being. Even, and I would say especially, those human beings who do not have anyone to speak up on their behalf. Now go and do it.